Supposed to be to the side? I don't know what to do with this part.
I think it just flops. Here, you want to flop it this way. All right, everyone. Getting ready.
Not sure what to do. I think I need to crease it.
Yeah, that looks great. Yes. I was going to be matching and wearing a hat. Unfortunately, this is a children's hat, so it did not fit.
I have a huge head too. I really do. For like a girl, I have such a big head.
And you know what? Loud and proud, so it's all good.
Hats are hard. Hats are hard.
Okay, well, hi everyone. Welcome again to our glove lab. We are excited to be doing this again. Let us know if you can hear us. I know we're not technically started yet, so we're going to let people trickle in. We do start at 10.
See if we got it.
So
our microphone bugs worked out.
Yeah, we'll see. And I'm going to make sure that everyone's got what they need.
That's funny. That's just, I can't. Just sticks out to the side. It was in a bin in my garage, and so it's all smashed.
I mean, I like it. I think it looks great. Do these look okay?
Yeah, you're just bent a little. It was also in a bin in the garage.
Well,
it's in the Christmas bin.
That's perfect. Okay, so I have to admit something. We got our Christmas tree right after, actually before Thanksgiving. We have not put any decorations on it yet.
You just have
we just have a tree
in
our living room.
Well, it's like half the spirit.
Which is, yeah.
Like Christmas spirit.
Yeah. It feels wrong, to be honest.
Maybe it's just rustic.
It's a rustic,
Christmas tree.
Millennial beige Christmas tree.
It is. I decorate in plain colors.
Yeah. Just like the natural
no sparkles
aesthetic.
And no red.
Yeah.
No garland.
It is nice. It's great to have around, so it's fine.
They smell nice.
They do.
I do like the smell.
The cat loves it. So does the dog. Okay. I believe we're at time.
It is.
Is it? Okay. So we can get started. Thank you again for being part of the Glove Lab. We appreciate people being here and or watching after the fact as well.
Thank you.
We're not talking to no one. And our goal, obviously, is to make this a casual and interactive way for people to learn more about disposable gloves. Hear from us. Sarah has a lot of knowledge stored. So.
I've worked here too long.
Yeah, not too long. So make sure to click subscribe because we will be doing this every month. And we do have another one coming up in January. So
if you have questions or ideas, let us know. We always can talk about any topic that you're interested in. We're just kind of doing from what we hear people talking about, but if you have something specific, let us know.
Yes. Obligatory sign. The Glove Lab.
And we're hoping our production budget will go up in 2025.
What would that look like?
Sound effects.
Sound effects post live.
Right.
Okay. So, again, just if you have any questions, leave them in the chat and we will get to them at the end. We always appreciate people chiming in. So that's what we got.
All right. So let's start off quick. If you watch the other ones, you know who we are. I'm Sarah. This is Ashley. We work at Eagle Protect, and Eagle Protect is a disposable glove and clothing supplier. We're proud to be the first certified B Corp glove and clothing supplier in the world. We also developed our own glove quality testing program, which makes us a little bit unique. And it helps us try to elevate the glove industry and the safety and the consistency of our gloves so it's something our customers can trust. Mm-hmm. And if you ever talk to us on social, Ashley is the one that's going to be talking back to you. So, well, not talking back to you, but answering you. So she'll be the one. So if you have any questions for us ever, that's also a great place to ask questions. We have a lot of resources. Our website is great. We have a lot of blogs on there. So if you use the search bar, kind of look for any topic you're looking for. That's also a pretty good resource to use.
It is. And we like to start these, at least I think our last one, with a fun question. So today it is, what's your favorite holiday?
Oh, Christmas.
Yeah, can you tell?
Yeah.
Can you tell what we like?
I'll answer that one before you finish your question. Unless it's like March Madness. I also like March Madness. I
You
don't know if that's a
know-
holiday, but it should be.
I think
should
it
be.
counts. If you're
should be.
excited about it,
Oh yeah.
that works.
God, that Friday, Saturday, like those first days. Yeah.
You know.
But Christmas still wins.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can't say.
All right. Well, if anybody is
Yeah.
there and you want to let us know what your favorite holiday is.
Yeah, please do. We accept any and all holidays. So, all right. So the glove ER is open.
Yes, we're talking glove trauma.
Yes. So this can mean a lot of things, but we will go over it in a little bit more detail.
Yeah, disposable gloves are a really simple item, but they're such a super important safety item, whether it's in food processing, cannabis. We just got back from a show in Vegas for that. Doctors with patients. If you're working with chemicals, gloves are really important, but for how simple they are, they can be really, really frustrating.
Mm-hmm. Yes, they really can. And we've gotten that feedback from people before. So not necessarily about us. Shameless plug. Okay, so we put together the top 4 frustrations that people have with gloves, and sort of talk about how we can stop them from happening. So, supply, ripping, skin issues, and price.
Yes. So those are the 4 things that we kind of hear from people the most, where they're either frustrated with it, struggling with it, got a problem they can't figure out how to solve it. So it's kind of, gloves are great when they work, but when they don't work, they're also, it's just a pain because you're using them all day for everything you do.
Yeah.
So these are kind of the 4 things we'd like to cover. But if you have any other questions, interrupt us, throw it in there.
Please do.
Not super hard ones.
That's all Sarah. So it's okay for me. All right, so let's get to it. Having a consistent glove supply, number 1. I mean, you can kind of see how that can be frustrating if that either fails or isn't living up to your expectations. So what can a company do about this?
All right, well, okay, an inconsistent supply can really mean 2 things. So either you're not getting your gloves, like the shipments just aren't coming, you're not regularly stocked, you're running out of gloves. That's a problem. But then there's also the consistent supply side of it, where there's also a problem where you're getting gloves, but the brand is changing, the quality is changing from box to box. One fits, one rips, one's big, one's small. So that's also in the inconsistent supply. There's kind of 2 frustrations, I feel like, within the one.
Yeah.
So let's talk first about not getting your gloves. So this is obviously a problem. This is frustrating on a whole different level. Businesses literally need gloves to operate. If the gloves aren't coming in, you can't do business. Like this is a big deal. And this is one where I'm surprised sometimes that people put up with it and then they don't look for a new supplier. If your supplier is just running out of gloves and you're communicating with them the quantities you need, how often you're going to be ordering, like something that they can include in their forecasting, you should probably keep looking for a new supplier. Something you should push on and talk. So if you are talking to your supplier and communicating, they understand your needs and what you want, and then they're not fulfilling that. That is their job. Yeah. So I would say look for a new supplier. In general, you can ask them. We have 3 months supply for all of our customers. So it is something where even if one of our containers got caught up in the ports, sometimes there's funny things happening there that slow things down. Our customers can keep operating, which is a big deal. So make sure that you know how much your supplier can do that for you and how much stock they have. Not getting gloves is bad, but then it's also really frustrating when you're getting the gloves. Let's say you try a glove, it works, you fall in love with it, you order it, and then the next one comes and it's same box, different glove, different box, different glove. And it's just frustrating with the quality of it. So let's say, for instance, you try our glove, like the Derma Nitrile 2. That's probably it's starting to really take off. People are loving that glove. So let's talk about that one. Okay, so you try the glove, love the glove, order the glove. So you're going through a distributor, and then the dermas come, they're great, doing everything, and then the next pallet shows up of your order, and then it's a different brand of glove. And it was like, so this is kind of, how can this happen? Well, with a supplier has the obligation to give you what you need. And so it kind of depends on the communication you have with the supplier. If you tell them, I need a 3 mil blue nitrile glove, there's a lot of gloves that actually fit that bill. And those gloves are not all the same, but some distributors do think a glove is a glove and they're interchangeable. So as long as you're checking the boxes, you can get any 3 mil blue nitrile glove, and it's like, I did my job and I gave you what you ordered.
Right.
So make sure if you have a glove that you really like and works for you, put the brand in there and specify the brand with your supplier and say it's an Eagle Protect 3 mil nitrile blue glove, and then tell them you don't want to deviate from that. And so that's something where to make sure you get a consistent glove when it comes to include the brand, so you know what you're getting. Otherwise, they can flip flop with their house brand with a different brand, just whatever they have in stock on the shelf.
And
I would say there's also a little bit different. Make sure there's a second part to that. So sorry, this question is like really deep, a lot of deepness here. Within a glove box, not all brands are consistent within themselves also. So there are some brands that have, let's say, 2 to 7 factories making their gloves from all over. They'll put them together and they'll put them in the box. So they are all that brand of gloves, but every factory has a little bit of it's going to be a little bit different glove. There could be a lot of variation. There could be a little deviation, but within that box, then you could have a little variation of gloves. We single source our gloves. So all of the gloves come from one factory. And so we know all the gloves from that one factory are going to be the exact same. They're in the box. Right. So there's things that we do to go around that. Shameless plug for Eagle.
We'll have a couple of those.
So there is also making sure that it is a brand that is consistent within their own glove as well. So there's kind of a 2-tier to that part of the question.
And I mean, I think it's important to what you said about communicating your ordering needs. So, a supplier can kind of plan for that as well. So
be specific. And then it gives them they can plan and forecast what they need to have in the warehouse for you.
Yeah. So a company definitely needs to know the quality and reliability of their gloves in order to run, function, do what they got to do. So I can see how that's super frustrating if their supply is not working with them. So the next up is ripping. This is, I think, the most common glove complaint that we get. We have, talked about this in a live stream, so I will link that here, but it is important to bring up again, just because it is a popular, unfortunately, problem that people have.
Yes, I would say this is the most common problem that when we talk to people that they're running into. And the live stream, if you want to pop that link in the chat, that was a little bit more of a deep dive into ripping, but it's such a problem and people are really dealing with this a lot. So I think it is worth touching on again. So in general, the quality of the glove, I should say the durability of the glove. So the strength of it, the stretchiness of it, how far it can stretch, that kind of a thing. It is directly related to the quality of the ingredients and then the processes used to make the glove.
Yeah.
So that really is a long-winded answer of saying you don't really know, because there's no ingredient label on the side of the box.
Right.
So it is something that is a little bit difficult when you're sourcing gloves to say, oh, get a high quality glove. And then you ask anybody and everybody goes, oh, we have the best gloves. I mean, it's like, obviously everybody does because they believe in their product, but it is worth trying it and going the extra mile and seeing what a company does to make sure they have quality gloves. What are their quality ingredients? What are their quality procedures that they have in place? How do they have standards in there to make sure that there is a consistency throughout there? If a company, or let's say a factory, wants to cut corners and make a glove for cheaper, they add things to the nitrile mix, like chalk, and chalk doesn't stretch, but it makes more gloves because now I have more material to make the gloves with. And since the chalk doesn't stretch, when I put it on, it's going to rip, but they're making more money because they can make the gloves for cheaper. So it's kind of one of those things to make sure that you have a factory and a company that's reputable and not cutting corners as well.
And then this is another thing that people bring up. Essentially, some people think that if you get a thicker glove, that can help with your ripping issues, but this isn't always the case. Can you explain that a little bit more?
That's a great point. So in general, if I have a glove and it's ripping, I feel like it is totally normal to just be like, well, I need a thicker one because this one's too thin, it's ripping.
Right.
And that in general actually does work if the quality of the ingredients are there, because the durability of the glove is directly related to the quality of the ingredients. So if I have a really crappy glove, a really crappy thin glove that's ripping, if I make a really crappy thicker glove, it's still going to rip. If that material doesn't stretch, it's not going to stretch if it's thin or if it's thick. So being thicker can make it more durable, but you have to have the quality of the ingredients as that base in the formula.
Right. Okay. So
Okay. Sorry.
Me too. So I posted on the in the chat the glove ripping live stream link. So let me know if that comes through. Well, all right. Next on the list is skin, not just skin irritation.
Yeah, sorry, it didn't fit on the sheet.
Just skin, actually.
We're just gonna talk about skin.
Yep.
Okay, so skin irritation. This one I really feel for people that are dealing with this one. This one is can be pretty miserable and painful, and something that I really understand when somebody wants to take care of this issue. And it's actually our most visited blog is having issues with skin issues and with the gloves and the glove irritation and things like that. So I know it is something that people are dealing with, and I just can't imagine that you have to wear a glove every day for your job. Your skin is reacting. It's getting dry. It's cracking. It's hurting. It's ripping. It's bleeding. It's blisters. It's like, and then you have to put another glove on and go back to work. It's just like, it's the cycle's just going to be there. That's just going to make it worse. So I do feel for people that are dealing with this, but I hope that we have some good news and there are some solutions to help. So let's first talk about the kind of skin reactions. There are two. There's two different kinds of skin reactions. They're similar, but they are a little bit different. So we have an allergic and we have an irritant contact dermatitis. An allergic contact dermatitis is actually an allergy to the results or to the chemicals and the additives and the ingredients used in the glove.
Right.
So some people are actually allergic to what's in the glove, and then they're going to get something from a skin rash to blisters. There's kind of a whole range depending on how severe the allergic reaction is. And it can last up to a day or two. Definitely a big issue if you're allergic to something and your body is hating it. That's it's a big deal. So you could say it's maybe similar to something that's like a poison ivy reaction. If you had to,
would be horrible.
Yeah. So that's underneath of your gloves. So if you are allergic to the ingredients in the gloves, but I will also say this is not as common as people think. I will preface that where it is something that people deal with, but it's not as common as people think. They are reacting to the gloves, but the amount of people that are actually allergic to the gloves are less than people would think.
Right.
Commonly, they are reacting. Let's go to the second type of reaction is the irritant contact dermatitis. And that is having skin irritation that's caused by the chemicals or the ingredients, the same thing,
sort of thing,
but you're not allergic to them. You're just reacting to them. And commonly you're going to react more frequently to cheaper materials, cheaper chemicals, things that the factories may use to cut corners and make that cheap glove is more likely to irritate your skin. So a way to get around this is kind of twofold. So you can get a higher quality glove that's going to take out some of those crappy chemicals and the cheap ingredients that could be irritating your skin. A lot of times if somebody is getting irritated by something, it's called the accelerant. Mm-hmm. And accelerant is what makes nitrile stretchy. And so they'll put it in the glove to make the glove stretch more, because when you put on a glove, we should be able to stretch it to our elbow. And sometimes people do react to these. Right. If you are having that reaction to it, there are gloves, shameless plug number 2, I guess. We have 2 gloves. Our sensitive nitrile gloves and our Derma 2 nitrile gloves are actually they use a different recipe, let's say, and they don't use accelerants to make them stretchy. So that different recipe is actually patented. It's called our low derma gloves. And so this glove is patented and proven to be the least likely glove to irritate your skin. Mm-hmm. So I'm hoping that you don't have skin allergies and it's just something that's irritating your skin. Right. But there are gloves. If you're allergic to it, that's really tough because allergies don't go away. But if you are reacting to the glove from an irritation standpoint, which is, I got to say, most of the people that we run into, mm-hmm. There are gloves that can help reduce your skin irritation.
Right. And as Sarah mentioned, we do have a blog about skin irritation, and that is our best performing blog. So
it's a good read.
Yeah. So I did put that in the chat, and I did label it skin blog. I apologize.
Sounds so weird. So it's like a Dahmer blog.
It's a good read though. Go for it. Okay, but the other thing mm-hmm. that I feel like comes up a lot around this is latex. So
yes.
people, can be allergic to latex, which can be a very serious allergy. So
yes, that is a very good point. People can be allergic to latex, and that's why a majority of the states, weird that it's not all of them yet, but a majority of the states have actually banned latex from being used for food handling because latex allergies can be really severe, like EpiPen
People
severe.
can get
So
messed
you
up.
don't want somebody making your food with latex gloves. You don't know that, and then you eat it because latex actually has a protein on it that people can be allergic to, and that allergy can be severe. So if you do have an allergic reaction or an allergy to latex, you want to be careful. But nitrile gloves do not have this protein in it. So it is different. I know it's gloves to gloves. They look very similar, but they are made with different materials. And so the latex glove is different than the nitrile. If you have a latex allergy, nitrile is okay.
Yeah, which is great. Okay, well, last on the list, and I think it's a very important one.
Some people would say it's the most important one.
Yes, I think it drives a lot of decisions.
Yes, it does.
And it's price. So everyone has a budget, and obviously you have to stay within that to operate. So how a company should think about glove pricing is important, and how do they minimize the cost while not sacrificing safety.
I think this is a great thing to talk about. And it's not something that we shy away from because price is important. We all have budgets. We all have jobs. We all want to stay within our budget. So we keep our jobs. So it all kind of goes hand in hand, and we get that. But when you talk about price, there's a little more to look into versus just the sticker. Like it's what's on your price list. How much does it cost me?
Right.
And then I look from box A to box B to box C, and then it's like, oh, that one's cheaper. And so a lot of times when you're just looking at the sticker label, it's a little misleading of what you're actually getting, because the quality of the glove will affect the use of the glove. And it kind of comes back to that ripping when we had our, what was it, number 2? When we had our ripping. So the quality of the glove is going to reduce your ripping. You reduce ripping, you're using more of the gloves you buy. So let's say I'm a company, I bought just bottom of the barrel gloves, and then I got what I paid for. So when I put them on, I'm putting it on, I rip. I put it on, I rip. I put it on, I rip. Okay, well then I need the other hand. You put it on, you rip. You put on.
Yeah.
If it takes me 3 to 6 gloves to get a pair of gloves to work, I didn't just use 1 pair of gloves to do my job. I used 8.
Right.
And so that sticker price is a little misleading too, because you're not using the gloves you paid for. So our gloves were price competitive. Wow, shameless plug number 3, I guess. So
like going for it on
we're price competitive, but we did have the one of the biggest box retailers in the U.S. Do their own study. We sent them gloves, and we backed out of it. They did their own, and they actually had cheaper gloves they were using. And in the long run, because our gloves ripped less, they used less, they disposed of less because they were thinner and all of that, they actually saved money in the long run using our gloves. But sticker price, we were slightly higher.
Right.
So it is one of those where you kind of got to figure out a little bit. It takes a little time, but it is worth doing it for your budget and for safety and for the long run, to put in that little work and test gloves and make sure that it's a good glove.
Right.
Secondly, I would say, like most products you buy, if you talk to your supplier, sometimes if you buy in larger quantities, you can get a better per case price. I feel like this is kind of common, but then you have to have a place to store the gloves. I guess so that's like, there's a little catch in there where it is nice to buy things in bulk because then you get a better deal, but depends on the size of the facility and what you have for storage. So there's a little bit in there.
There's more that kind of goes into it than I think people realize.
Well, and Kimberly has a good point too, where if you're ripping gloves all the time and constantly walking back to the box to get a new pair of gloves, your overall efficiency goes down. And so if you're producing less per day, there's a lot of ways that gloves can actually impact your bottom line versus just on that PO.
Right. And we do have a blog that talks about the, overall cost of disposable gloves and kind of what that really means. So I will put that in the chat. Should be there. But the point of it is essentially when a glove, is made cheaper, something has to allow for a lower price. So you just have to pick where you're willing to compromise.
Exactly.
In order to get that lower.
You have to pay for shipping. You have to pay for materials. You have to pay for them to be manufactured.
Right.
So if you're going to get a cheaper glove, do you want crappier materials? Do you want them not taking the time to clean the facility?
Right.
Have a dirty factory? Maybe they don't sanitize the water. Maybe they don't pay their employees very well. I mean, so you have to, where are you giving? You have to give a little bit if you want cheaper gloves because you have to pay all of those. Yeah, that is a great blog.
Yeah.
I didn't write it. So I can say that. Linda
it's
wrote a great blog.
Yeah. All right. So, we always want to hear what everyone thinks, and what, you want to hear from us. Cause this is for you. We don't do this for us. It is fun, but so we always like to wrap things up with questions. And we did get a couple submitted before or ahead of time on social media. So if there are any questions, just pop them in the chat. If not, no worries. We've got some to go over. So, all right. The first one, which is really a hot topic right now.
Yes.
I heard that gloves made in China will have a 50% tariff in 2024 and 100% in 2025. What does this mean?
Yes, this one is coming up a lot, especially since we blinked and it's not July anymore.
Right.
We're getting to the end of the year. And now the Trump administration has said that medical and surgical gloves from China will have a 50% tariff at the beginning of the year and then 100% tariff the next year.
Right.
So right now it is the surgical and medical gloves that are being affected, but there's been talk about the other gloves. We don't know for sure right now, and that's up to them. This is for above our pay grade to talk tariffs. But for the tariff that is going to be in place in January, that is going to be 50% on the gloves from China, the medical and surgical. But what we envision happening is that it's going to put pressure on the glove industry. And because of that, it's going to kind of shift things around where people are sourcing from. Our nitrile gloves come from Malaysia and Thailand. Mm-hmm. So the tariffs aren't affecting our gloves. Mm-hmm. And that's not something that we're going to be dealing with. But we'll have to deal with it a little bit because we do envision that some of the demand is going to be shifting to Malaysia and Thailand away from China. Right. And so because of the rise of demand that we foresee, we do think that lead times are going to be a little bit longer. We'll have to see how price plays out. It really depends on where that demand goes and how much and things like that. Right. Sometimes shipping's affected a little bit because then the shipping lanes between Malaysia, Thailand, and us are going to be busier. So there are some things where because of the supply and demand, it's going to adjust a little bit. But right now, the tariffs are only for the gloves from China, the medical and the surgical. We'll see where it goes from there. And I don't know what needs to settle for the second round of tariffs not to happen or do happen. So if we hear any updated news, things like that, if you follow us on LinkedIn, we try to post if we have any industry news that keep you in the loop when we're talking to our factories to keep our finger on the pulse, I believe the saying is, so we can let you know. But as of now, we do we do suspect a pretty big shift in demand to away from China. Yeah. And we do have which is the purpose, I think. Yes. Yeah. So we do have a blog that talks about so many blogs are the answer. Blogs are the answer. Just go read what we have. It's essentially glove price forecasting for 2025. We can't say that we know everything, but we can say that we have some information that, can help inform people where we're at, essentially in the industry. So give that a read if you're curious. I would say though, if you need to order, you're worried about it, if you talk with your supplier, if you would let us know what you're going to be using, if you want to place your orders, kind of a thing. Lead times, we do think, and that would be lead times, not from our warehouse to you, but from the containers from our factories coming over. Yeah. So we are doing whatever the best we can to mitigate that and putting in our orders and trying to get our orders in early to adjust for that and things like that. But it is something where it's really good to communicate, especially like if you were growing, you're opening a new facility, you want to do. So if there's especially if there's any changes in your usage, make sure you let your supplier know. Yeah. I think that's a great question to go over. And then we got another one, and we talked about this on social a little bit this month. So it's a great thing to go over. Are biodegradable gloves good? And I know this is a bit of a nuanced answer. So it's a big question. It's a good question. It's one that's come up quite a bit lately too. Biodegradable, recycling, sustainable. We want to be as good as we can, compostable, things like that. It's a great question. And I got to say that I absolutely love that people are asking the question. They're thinking about this. They're taking sustainability into account. It is important. It's very important, especially when we're working with disposable gloves, because we need the gloves. We have to use the gloves until we come up with something better. But it is something that we throw away. So it's really good to be cognizant. I love that companies are doing the extra work to try to do the best they can. Specifically on this question, when it comes to biodegradable gloves, the biodegradable claims on the gloves, to be honest, are a little unproven right now.
Mm-hmm.
We don't supply any biodegradable gloves yet. It's just something that we don't feel like the science is quite there to be proven that to know we're not giving up food safety. But then there's also a little bit of the biodegradable gloves when they do it in the I don't know what you call it, they do the studies to study how it biodegrades. So when they do the studies, it's also in a controlled environment. It's in a certain environment that is meant to break these gloves down. And often your city landfill, where most of our gloves are going to be going, is not this environment. So it's one of those where I think we're getting there and we're getting closer. But right now, we don't feel like the science quite lines up on it. But we are hoping that it gets there. If we would want to,
great.
Yeah, that would be fantastic. When it comes to sustainability, if we want to elaborate a little bit more on that, we also get asked about recycling a lot. Recycling is a great thing. When it comes to nitrile gloves, it is tough to recycle nitrile gloves because every recipe melts at a different temperature. It's a very, very high temperature, so it takes a lot of energy to get to this temperature, but they all melt at different temperatures, so it's a little bit of a harder system to control. There are some companies that do recycle and repurpose and things like that, and that's fantastic. You have to take into account gathering the gloves and shipping them over there and things like that. So that's on you to have the full chain if it's more sustainable.
Right.
But I love that people are talking about it. We hope that it keeps improving. Ultimately, our hope is that we're not using disposable gloves and we'll come up with something that is maybe reusable or something like that in the future where we don't need the disposable gloves. But in the meantime, we need to be protected. But maybe it's good to talk about Eagle sustainability. Wow, shameless plug number 4. So
really going for it. I love it.
Let's just talk about us today. So our sustainability look at this. So there's a reduce, reuse, and recycle. We talked about recycling. Okay, so recycling could be an answer, but I feel like there's a lot of energy involved in recycling the gloves.
Right.
So then reusing. Well, we're not reusing the gloves because gross. So then let's go to reducing. And from Eagle Protect, this is our view on sustainability at the moment, that we want to reduce the use of gloves. So by having a higher quality glove that rips less, we're reducing your overall usage of gloves. So there's less gloves going into the landfill.
Yeah.
Our gloves are a higher quality. So usually a standard 4.5 mil in the industry, you can use our 2.6 to 3 mil. So there's also less material in the gloves. So I'm using less gloves and then I throw away half of the material I'm using. So there is until we come up with a better solution, we have a really good solution to do gloves better.
Right.
But we're also not sacrificing our food safety, our chemical protection, things like that. So that's also important where we have to balance, where we want to protect the world, but also our product and our staff.
Yeah, safety.
Yes.
You guessed it. We have a blog. So I'm going to put that in the chat.
Yeah, definite theme of the day here.
A lot of
sure.
reading. Sorry. I know people don't love reading. But it'll help, I promise. It's great. It's good information. Give it a read. Okay, so our next question is, and we sort of covered this too, but my problem in the past has been that I order a pallet of new gloves and then the next pallet I order is different. So we did kind of touch on this. So how can I trust that yours, Eagles, will be the same each time?
That is a great question. We touched it a little bit in number one for the supply. If you do spec a company, you're going to be more likely to get a consistent glove because it's the same company coming in instead of just whatever the distributor has on the shelf.
Right.
So specing that is great. If you wanted to come down to just how do we know that our gloves are the same inside the box, we can't talk for everybody. We can only talk for what we do.
Right.
So I hope this isn't a shameless plug. We're just, for how we control the quality of it is we have what we call the Eagle Standard. And this is kind of our quality assurance that we do across the board. And we do it every single container that we order, every single glove we produce. So it starts at the factory where we audit the factories. We work with the factories. We have quality procedures in place. We have a recipe in place. We have things that just have to be done.
Yeah.
And we work with great factories that they want to do good too. They are publicly traded. So it's in their best interest to produce the greatest product they can. We love that. And so we work with them with quality. And then when it comes over, though, we actually have a range of our gloves that we test to make sure that nothing has changed. So there's no ingredients that shouldn't be in there. There's no chemicals that should be in there. There's nothing that on your glove that's going to contaminate your product. So we check to make sure the durability, the quality, the cleanliness has not changed from what we expect it to be before we ship it to you. So that's how we ensure the quality of it. That is a little over half of our gloves. All of our gloves are made to the same quality standards. So all of our gloves, you can expect the same quality the whole way through. We're just rolling out this testing as we grow because it is a little bit of an additional expense. But right now we do have, I think it's 5 gloves that we test for sure. And then we're hoping to get to the last, 3 or 4? And we'll add those in there. But we really take a lot of steps to make sure that our quality procedures are in place and to make sure that there is consistency that you can trust, because that is why Eagle is in business. That's very important to us.
Yeah.
Shameless plug 5.
Sorry about it, guys. All the reading and shameless plugs. So I think that concludes the questions that I think are, great to answer. If anyone has questions after the fact, we will answer to the best of our ability. And, we always love when people, ask us things, because
if you want to ask on YouTube or
social,
LinkedIn, Twitter,
anywhere.
Instagram, we try to be informative and semi-entertaining. I don't know. Sometimes we think we're funny.
Sometimes.
But thank you for joining us.
And our goal is to do this once a month. Again, next month is January, so it's a new year. We will have a live stream on the 15th, and we will be discussing, starting fresh, having a new year. And with starting fresh, we're going to talk about contamination and what that can look like and make things not fresh. So
contamination can be microbial, which you do not see, or the physical chunks in your product that you do see. So there's a little bit of both. I think some that maybe people don't think about.
So make sure you hit subscribe and set a reminder for that one. We love being friends with you all. So
like us,
please. No. Well, thank you again. And we'll see you next month in the new year.
See you guys. Happy holidays.
Yes. Happy holidays.